So let's see new habits to take when students do exercises in the classroom. First, I think you should have the solutions available. Yes, you perform an exercise at your desk in the classroom, and then you don't know if you were wrong or correct. You could raise your hand, ask the teacher to come, but the teacher will soon be the bottleneck, and you will depend on that resource. It's much more efficient, to my opinion, to empower yourself as a student to look at the solution. Even maybe the solution is in a folder on the teacher's desk. You go to the teacher's desk, you look at the solution, and you see where you've been wrong. And you learn from that. So that's critical to understand that having immediate feedback will foster your motivation. When, for example, you have an exam and you get the corrected results by the teacher or an assessment, you get the corrected result by the teacher 3 weeks later. Are you still interested? Of course not. But if you receive it just the next day, it's much more interesting for you. If you do an exercise at your desk and immediately when you finished or when you're stuck and you would like to see the solution, you get the solution, is very fruitful for your learning, as long as you tried, of course. You tried hard enough before looking at the solution. So, and as first point, solutions should be available to students in the classroom. Second point, I would whisper. So I mean, if you're a teacher and you talk very quietly, some calm will diffuse in the classroom. So it's very important not to talk to a student who is 3 meters far, because you will raise your voice, of course. You approach that student, and when you are very close from that student, you can whisper. I see too often teachers talking to students at the other side of the classroom with a discussion that does not concern any other student. That's a waste of focus, so a waste of time for most other students who listen despite it does not concern them. So it's a very hard request for many teachers. Please whisper if you want your students to whisper themselves. Set an example. And if you, as a student, you have a teacher who tried to whisper, but who naturally comes back to loud talking, then when you speak to the teacher, come close to the teacher and whisper to the teacher. So it might be a gentle reminder to the teacher to whisper himself. In the classroom, in a class meeting, for example, you could agree with the teacher of some sign how you remind him to calm down and to speak quietly. The next point to pay attention when you have exercises performed by students in the classroom is the cue. I mean, have you ever seen a line of students in front of the teacher's desk? And the students are waiting. So it's boring to wait, so they talk to each other, of course, after a few minutes. And they don't work. They are waiting. Why are they waiting in line in front of the teacher's desk? Because they are afraid to lose their turn, of course. If I go away, I lose my turn and I have to wait too long again for the teacher's availability if I get it at all by the end of the hour. So having a queue system, it might be as simple as writing your name on the board. For example, I write, okay, John, my name on the board to say to the teacher, I'd like to have some of your time, so please come to my desk or call me, I will come to your desk when you are available. And then before the teacher is available, maybe Fanny will also request to be in the queue, so she will write her name at the end of the queue, and then Berenice, for example. And by the time the teacher asks me what was my question, maybe I solved my problem myself. So I say, no, it's okay, I figured out myself. And so the teacher can ask the next student. But while this happened, Berenice is not waiting in a line, in a queue. She's working at her desk. So she's not losing time, but she's confident nobody will take her turn in the queue. A next item or feature I'd like to see in a classroom where students have exercises is movement. When I'm in the class that I coach and I see that every student sits for 15 minutes while exercising, I tell myself it's not very healthy. These four very strong and healthy girls and guys waiting on a chair for a whole day, it's not very good. Not very good for focus, not very good for motivation. It's not good for nobody. So it's very healthy when you finished a little exercise, 5 minutes, you stand up and you do something else for 30 seconds. For example, you ask an explanation to a friend, or you help a friend for 1 minute, and then you come back at your desk and you do the next exercise. And maybe you will help another student at the board, using a corner of the board, but being standing up, I mean, with other students, with 2 other students, and you have mutual aid on the board that you stand up. Or you can stand up and find some tablets, some high window border where you can write on your paper, but you stand up, you're not sitting again at the chair. So moving, changing is a good sign of efficiency when I enter in a classroom, as long as it's not playing and talking about non-academic stuff. So, moving. Also, pay attention that this gives you more autonomy, for example, solutions or freedom like the queue and being able to move. More autonomy and more freedom might take some of your time. So, for example, if you can move and you can go to your best friend and you can start talking about mathematics, but maybe 5 minutes or 5 seconds later you talk about something else, which is not numeracy, which is about a TV show, for example, then you lose your time. And so with more freedom, you will need to be more careful about time, and probably should use a timer. For example, it could be a wall timer, even when the teacher speaks, like we see for mini courses, to limit the time of the teacher to 15 minutes, for example, when he gives an explanation to the whole class. Or it could be a small electronic timer that you use when you ask the teacher, may I explain, may I have a meeting with you, the students, so we can explain to each other for 15 minutes, and the teacher will say, okay, but only 10 minutes, and I give you a timer. Having only 10 minutes will um, promote a good use of time, will prevent you not talking about the core subject of your explanation. Or it could be a timer that I have on my watch to not forget that these students should come back after 10 minutes, for example. So do not hesitate to value time and use timers to remind yourself of a kind of sense of urgency, as freedom will lead the class to something loose, not being performant, and you would have more homework, which I don't wish that to you. So I wish you the best possible management of your new freedom. Good luck.